Ready? Okay. My name is Donna Hinkson, and I'm here today with the lovely Tina, who's about to introduce herself to us all. So, Tina, over to
Hi,
you.
my name's Tina Slade, and I am a quantum light language energy healer.
Beautiful. And my name is I've told you my name, sorry. And we're here today to talk about our journeys. And I'm a trainee medium and psychic. So, Tina, I would like to ask you your first question is how old were you when you discovered you were different?
Goodness. So I think I've always known I was different. I've always had that feeling of never fitting in. I can remember probably about the age of 7 having this experience of being off planet and looking down on the world and suddenly realizing that it wasn't real. But I dropped into a very complex family situation. But I am actually 3rd generation psychic. So on my mother's side, all the women were hugely psychic. So I came in knowing and was with my mum, who was the most unbelievable medium, but didn't actually do anything with it because she was in a very controlling relationship. So I think I've always known I was different. It wasn't until I got into my 20s that I started really diving into my spirituality. And I became a Reiki master, I became a tarot reader, I became a medium, and then I just expanded and continued to sort of see clients whilst I was also raising a family and whilst I was also validating myself within my career.
Wow. So you said that you're 3rd generation psychic. So how did you find out your other family members were psychic?
Well, my mum always saw spirit. She would always go places and tell me what was there, you know, a century ago. She would describe it. She would always be giving messages to people. So I just always was connected in that way with her. So it was very normal for me to understand, you know, prophecies and messages from spirit from my mum, even though I didn't realize at that time that I had the gift as well. I was dealing with lots of things growing up. I have dyslexia, and that caused lots of sort of academic problems for me during school, which I know that you know about.
Yes, I totally understand.
And
I resonate with that, yes.
as a result of that, that created in me this massive need to prove myself, having always been told I was stupid, having always been told that I wouldn't amount to anything, and then believing that. And you do, when you're told it so often, when you're told to keep small, when you're not allowed to be yourself, when you're not allowed to speak your truth, because there are consequences to that within the family and within the school environment. And I used to love to read, but the strange thing was I couldn't read until I was 12. I couldn't tell the time until I was 12. So even now I have no relationship with numbers or letters, but when I'm using my light language, I code with numbers and I can see the energy and the coding contained within.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So yeah,
it was really interesting working with a friend. We were doing some channeling, and I went back to a lifetime where I was very famous as a scientist. Wow. So I believe that I used all that knowledge in terms of numbers and all what needed to happen there, and that actually in this lifetime I don't need that information because I've already got it.
That makes so much sense. That's fantastic. Oh my God, that's wonderful. Because yeah, you're right. I do struggle with dyslexia just like you do. There's quite a lot of mirrors between us because I have the dyslexia, and the dyslexia kind of made me struggle at school, and then people tell me I was stupid. And also, you know, I didn't do very well at academia. Because I did do very well, I was attracted to it, but never fitted into it, and tried it so many times and got rejected. And I thought to myself, oh, I need to find a different path. So I can totally relate to that. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were at school, Donna, just to explore that, how did it feel when you were constantly told that you were stupid? For me, it was, they always said there's something missing between her being able to understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
So how did that make you feel?
For me, that it created the most saddest isolation inside of me. I felt so isolated and so lonely and so misunderstood. And it made me feel even more alien from my family than I already did. Yeah, because I couldn't express myself. So I became on my school reports, it would say, could do better, too shy, doesn't speak out, all of those things that they don't really ask you why, they just label you that and then they put you in the corner. And then, like you said, I did a lot of reading, so that helped me. Yeah.
And the strangest thing, my school report always said, if she were to stop talking, maybe she would learn. But that's how I learn. I learn
Yeah.
through communication.
Yes. Yes, I can see that. And I totally can relate to that because I've had to come out of myself in my 20s. I started speaking a lot more than I had done before. I was very shy. I very rarely spoke. I very rarely opened up and said what I feel. But as you got older, you realize that people don't listen or don't care about you if you're prepared to just sit in the corner and not speak your truth. You have to step into yourself so people can hear you and also you can get your value. Yeah.
And interestingly, in a way, I'm sort of grateful for that learning experience, because what it did, it made me so committed in my career to prove to everybody that I am as good, as intelligent as all of you that have got degrees. And I would always end up, because I work within blue chip companies, working at sort of just below director level. Yeah. And I was always working with these people with massive qualifications, but just never had any common sense or any logic. Yeah. So of course I could go into a meeting and hold my own because I could see things so clearly, and everyone else is not getting it. And I'm like, I don't understand. You're meant to be the clever person and I'm not. But it did create a massive fire in me to validate myself. And that does create exhaustion when we're continually having to prove we're good enough through climbing the career ladder. You know, I've done lots of public speaking. It wouldn't be unusual for me to speak to 300-400 people. I would never be nervous because I always had the confidence to do it. But inside, I was always broken. Inside, I always felt I wasn't worthy. Inside, I always thought, today's the day they're going to catch me out.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what happens when you're indoctrinated into that program of lack of self-worth, when you're not nourished and encouraged to grow within your creativity. Absolutely. For me, it created this massive self-destruct because I was never happy until I got the next job and the next job, whether I liked it or not. And then I would work so many hours in an absolute 3D reptilian environment. I always worked within masculine environments, so I ended up having to be one of the boys, you know, and it was exhausting. It truly was, and never fulfilling, because I always had the dichotomy of having to be ruthless and having to make decisions that affected people's lives, to wanted to be nurturing for people, wanting to get to that spiritual side, wanting to look at the best side. And it caused massive disruptions for me.
That's a lot of conflict.
Absolutely.
Conflict. That is a lot of conflict. Where I went the opposite way of you, I went more down the route of self-doubt, staying under a rock, hiding away, making sure no one could see me. I didn't go out there and feel I was worthy of creating myself a career like that. So I think that's really courageous that you did that, and really broke past the stigma of the dyslexia, where I did the opposite. I'd avoid writing and avoid academic in that sense. So it's interesting that we've kind of like done the opposites with the same issues. Yeah.
And you know what, it's so easy to create a team for you who are going to do all of your spreadsheets, all of your mathematical equations. I just created this enormous team, and I always used to give them cake, so they always thought I was amazing, so that whenever I asked for a report, I didn't have to do it. So there's always, you become very devious about how you can cover up the areas that you're not strong in, and people didn't see it.
I think that's quite smart, quite a very clever survival tactic. Rather than, but I guess inside you must have felt like a fraud.
Yeah, and interesting, that's a great choice of words, Donna, because to have to always be in survival mode, you will get to a point where you get burnout, because you're never authentic. You're never true to yourself. And I didn't understand that. So although I knew I was always different, I dismissed that. I didn't connect into that. And because I had to channel all of my energies into being perfect, always, you know, not only being perfect at work, but being the perfect friend, being the perfect daughter, doing things, always saying yes when you wanted to say no,
Yeah.
because having not been nurtured particularly as well, or being nurtured with massive conditions, creates in you a need to be everything to everybody else, but not to yourself.
Yes. It's interesting that you said that you never could say no. That's something I've always struggled with. The fear of saying no is the fear of somebody not liking you. Is the fear of you, not liking who you are. And you're thinking, if I say no, they won't like me. And it's that conflict because you don't like yourself because of the things you've gone
Yep.
through that you didn't realize you've got dyslexia. You take it as like something to be ashamed of. So you say, if I
Yep.
say no, I'm people won't like me. And you want people to like you. So that's when you get the burnout as well, like you said. Yeah.
Desperately.
Yeah.
And so you end up creating, it's really interesting. A lot of my clients will say to me, as I've gone on the spiritual path, I've lost my friends, as though it's something really bad.
Yes.
But the way I look at it is that I created friendships to validate myself, where I would always be giving in that friendship.
Yes.
So it would never be of equal parts, because the more I gave, the more I thought, one, I felt worthy, and two, I thought they loved me more because I would always be given. And then when we step into our true authenticity and we can say, do you know what, I'm going to reevaluate where I am. That friendship is so one-sided that actually that isn't serving me. Then we will evaluate where we are. We will work out who. So I've gone from a massive sort of span of so many friends, because I validated myself by how many friends I had, to actually having a very small core, very small, of friendships which are absolutely equal, that are my 4 a.m. friends. If I was stuck at 4 a.m, I could call them. That's really, but on the whole, I couldn't have done, but they would always call me at that 4 a.m.
Yes, yes.
So it's about stepping into our worthiness. It's about understanding what do we need as a sovereign being, and being able to be really honest with ourselves as to why we've got ourselves into situations where we are disempowered, because we perpetuate that same program that we have chosen to run and to learn from.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you said that, because when I had a session with you, that was something that came up with disempowerment. And then I took a hard look at disempowerment. Disempowerment is quite a powerful thing to ask to experience, because it takes away your voice, it takes away your identity, it creates this person where you keep saying yes to everybody, like you said, you end up with burnout, you end up in pleasing, and it's a very destructive. So to stand back, like you said, and to stand in sovereignty and be brave and say you can be your own friend is very powerful. Yeah.
We can't be anything to others. We can't be of service to others until we're of service to ourselves. And it takes a lot of courage to look at who you have been, all the decisions, conversations, arguments and rows, who you have been before you came into yourself. But that is the awakening process, isn't it? Absolutely. You know, that's the journey we're on. If we have chosen within our timeline to become awakened, and I try and explain this through all the work I do, awakening is absolutely about holding more light. It's about the formula they gave me, and how strange that the universe gives me a formula when I don't relate to numbers unless I'm coding. The formula is that we first of all find love. We find love for ourselves. We don't worry about anyone else at this point. We find love for ourselves. So we do that inner work. We look at all of our archetypal pain, all of our archetypal wounding. It can be slavery, it can be disempowerment, it can be abandonment, rejection, anger, all of the core wounds that we hold. And then from that, we find forgiveness. And we find forgiveness of self. And from forgiveness of self, we get compassion. Absolutely. And when we come into the heart center, I'm going to go into coding in a minute. When we come into the heart center, when we come into the heart coherence, we then expand because we get compassion. That compassion allows us to give that love, forgiveness, compassion to others. Absolutely. And that's what awakening is.
Absolutely. Being of service to others as well as ourselves. Absolutely.
we can't be of service. You know, on an aircraft, you'll always be told, if you lose oxygen, put your mask on first.
Absolutely.
Before you put anyone else's
That's
mask
right.
on.
That's so true. And that's perfect
And
analogy. Yeah,
that is the same with awakening.
absolutely.
Be of service to yourself. And it's not like you suddenly wake up and you go, oh goodness, you know, I am all light, because we are continually, and I am as well, I'm continually dropping into my shadow side, yes, in order to peel back and to understand my sovereignty more. Absolutely. So it's never that we stop. And sometimes, you know, I've been doing this, working within the quantum field for the last coming up for 3 years. And it's the hardest journey, because you think you've nailed something and then something will trigger you. You drop into that emotion which you think you've dealt with, and it could be fear, could be anything. And you're like, no, yes, I've just spent the last year healing this. Now you're showing me a side of it I haven't found.
That's right. It's true. Yeah, but ever being tested, and I feel like that constantly. It's like the more you're awakening, the harder the tests are, and you think they'll be much easier, and you're getting more triggered, much more triggered. It's definitely, like you said, it's like you always judge. I find that when you go into 5D and suddenly someone takes you to 3D, you go, but I've done all this work. How could I have just suddenly triggered back?
If I could stay in my cabin, so in my cabin, yes, I have a vortex which connects me up into source. I have a crystal ball which is placed underneath, which takes away all the negative energy when I'm working. I have my dragons, I have my angels, the guide, everyone who works with me. I have all my star beings. And I often think, if I could just stay in here and I don't have to open the door, because when I drop into 3D, one, I feel it. Yes. My energy drops. Yeah. I drop into a matrix where I'm trying to have a perspective of zooming out. Yeah. I drop out of timelines. So for me, there is no time, but when we're in 3D, it makes it really difficult. I've always been really, I've never forgotten anything. I've always been on time for everything. Now, oh my goodness, I am absolutely useless at trying to keep on any timeline. But what I do, instead of berating myself, which I always used to do, I just accept it. Yeah. And that's another thing, I think, Donna, do you not find that if you can accept all that is you in your programming, you take away that self-flagellation? Yes.
I think that once you start accepting that you recognize you're going into 3D and you recognize that you get the triggers, you're not as hard on yourself, and you're certainly not as hard on anybody else. You don't look for people to blame. You don't look for blaming yourself. You just have a lot of compassion for yourself. So you're right. You have to accept that you're in a 3D matrix, but nevertheless, you can go back to 5D. And like you said, if you're in your cabin, it's wonderful because you're on your 5D, you're in your time, like you know time, nothing, you're free. But once you step out into the world, it just goes boof, and it hits you a lot harder because you start seeing the matrix playing out. You start seeing. I was when I sit in the car, I would say, here comes the matrix, because as soon as you get in the car, the matrix hits you so clearly then. Because suddenly it's like you're all in this lovely 5D in your home, you get in the car, and then it's like, what was the matrix going to bring me today? Or there's an idiot crossing me, and there's an idiot cutting me off. And you think, wow, how quick did I get into the 3D matrix? Yeah. There's all these triggers constantly playing out. But like the further you get away from it, the quicker you start seeing the matrix playing out as it really
plays. But also, you know, we need to remember we have chosen to have a human experience. Absolutely. So the realities which we have in existence of realities which are happening concurrently with this lifetime will be within higher frequencies and possibly within lower frequencies. Yes. So there is this understanding that actually within our multidimensional self, we are experiencing so much, yes, but we need to be within 3D because we've chosen to be human in this lifetime. Absolutely. For whatever reason it is. So the learning is about, you know, we're triggered. Let's find out what the trigger is. I've said it to you so many times. Absolutely. Find out where the trigger is. Find out energetically where you're holding that remembrance energy, and then go in and heal it, because that's why you've come here. Absolutely. And a lot of people have come for different reasons as well, Donna. I mean, you are an awakener as well. So we choose to come in as way showers, awakeners, and also we choose to come in to hold energy within the whole galactic matrix field. And sometimes we have a slice of all of that. So for me, I hold the blueprint of awakening. It's why I work quantumly, I work with my light language, I activate light language in other people, and I show them about their galactic history, and we marry galactic history to 3D. So I can enter into what 3D would call Akashic records. I simply go into the energy field and get that information given to me. But there are equally other unbelievable people who are healers. Yes. And they've agreed to come in to help other people heal. Absolutely. Some of my clients who are really, and interestingly, I don't even know what percentage it is, but some of my clients are very high on the autism spectrum.
Yes. Okay.
Because what happens when you have autism, one, you don't have it, it's just a 3D label, so that's just ridiculous just from the start. But to explain in terms of what that means energetically, is that where we have evolved and we live off planet and we go up into the universal matrix, we vibrate at a super fast frequency. When we choose to drop down and incarnate in a lower frequency, as in 3D, and there are other galaxies where there is 3D energy and 4D, and once again, when we talk about dimensional time and space, we get stuck into 3D labeling. Dimensional space is fluid. It completely, there isn't like a layer here that says 4D, 5D, 6D up to 12D. It is expansive. So we have a murmuration of energy that we move between. So when we're high energy, we drop down into this dense holographic physical body. But what we have is we have a disparity again between how do we integrate really high frequency with low density body with a low density program which is playing. Yes. So when people are so hyper, when people can't concentrate, 3D is about let's medicate you. Yes. Let's dumb you down. Yes. Let's make you fit in. Yes. Let's not see your differences for the absolute beauty that they are. Yes. And let's label you. So automatically we create separation. Absolutely. Because life is about duality. Absolutely. So we create that separation. Yes. So a lot of my clients have what I call starseed children who simply do not fit in. Yes. They struggle at school because they're in, I've got truth coming in. So they're saying that what happens is that they get complete emotional and energetic overload. Yes. Because we place them in environments which are so detrimental to their high frequency. Absolutely. So that then causes more separation. Remember, we're always coming to heal the wounds of separation as well, from source and from the collective. Yes. And then they will create food allergies because we're placing food into our body, which is full of additives, which is full of preservatives, which is not rich in nutrients. So then that's why lots of people, young children, have eczema, they have milk allergies, because the life they've chosen to experience is not conducive to the high frequency that they are. Absolutely. Yes. So love them, they come in already. So not only do they feel they don't fit in, yes, not only have they also chosen, so I always call when we choose our family and we choose the experiences we have, it's very much like writing your own play. So you create your play and your players, and you create each scene that you're learning from. So the chances are you're going to also drop into a family which is a little bit dysfunctional or has things which you have chosen to experience. And we only learn by having the experience. And therefore that vibrational resonance causes so much disruption. And then, love them, we throw in a whole load of astral traveling at the night time. Yes. We throw in a whole load of knowing more than perhaps people around us understand. Yes. And then we go, well, actually, that's because we're going to just label you autistic, or we're going to label you with some other medical condition. Yes. So we can dumb you down, like you just said. Yes. So we're just take your light, we're drug you up, we'll make you conform into 3D. Yes. And then, when you explode, we go, let's change the medication. Yes. And let's label them disruptive. And if they can't cope and they become criminals or things like that, let's lock them up. Yeah, we'll just make them the outside of society. We'll brush them under the carpet.
in however we can. Yeah.
And if you look at, you know, the people who are within our prison service,
Yes.
the one way that we show humanity is about how do we treat people who have not conformed. Well, what do? We lock them in a cell for 24 hours a day, even though they have medical conditions, because we need to dumb them down. So, but we also have to have perspective as well, Donna, because it's very easy to get pulled into the reptilian, draconian nature of 3D.
Yes.
We have chosen that experience because we need to understand it.
Absolutely.
And also we can only experience it and understand and heal it when we have been in that 3D matrix.
Agreed. Yes. You can only, you're right. You can only heal something once you've experienced it. I can tell you all day long what you've experienced, I've experienced, but unless you've experienced it too, it's very hard to relate to it. You can empathize with the person, but you don't necessarily can ever understand it. There's nothing more better than experiencing it. It's true.
And that allows us to assist others, because when my clients come to me, I mean, when I came into the quantum world, I had absolute burnout. So coming up for 3 years ago, I had a complete nervous breakdown. I had a physical breakdown. So I manifested the most terrible symptoms of MS, but without scarring in my brain. I had the most awful stutter. I couldn't even hold a sentence because my adrenals, all of my energy fields were so depleted and so battered that I actually was just a simple physical wreck. I left my house to go and jump in front of the Brighton train because for me, I could not go on. I had a cataclysmic breakdown. My family life broke down, everything happened. But for me, I had to have that, one, because they needed to wipe me out because I wasn't listening and I needed to come into the quantum world. Then synchronicities happened and happened and happened. But I had to go through that so I can hold space for when my clients come in and say to me, you know, I just can't go on. Then I can say, I hear you, I feel it. The same with you, Donna. Yeah. You've chosen those experiences because people will come to you. There will be an automatic resonance with your energy field that people will come to you because you meet them on the same level.
Yes, that makes total sense. Yes, because we become better, not like the word better, but become more empathetic with people when we've been there. And like you said, it comes across more authentic if you've been there. You're much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes all you need to do is just sit.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything. You just sit because you get it.
Absolutely.
And you'll find, I mean, with the work I do, I don't advertise anywhere. All I work from is word of mouth. Yeah. Because not only do we hold that energy to help others, the universe is synchronistically awakening people who need your particular energy in order to awaken. So for you, you have the most wonderful experience within being in that, let's label it for the moment, autistic lifestyle. You've experienced every aspect of it. Therefore, it gives you a depth. It almost, so as I'm doing it, they're showing me a vortex in your chest. It gives you a vortex of energy that allows you to transcend and go into a place of healing that others who wouldn't have experienced that wouldn't be able to reach.
Wow, thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah.
So as much as we look back, and I look back over my life, and you know, all the major crises that can happen, I can probably tick everyone off. Yeah. And as much as we think, goodness me, looking back, how did I get through that? Yeah. There is a part of me that understands, okay, I get that now. I had to go through that in order to be able to hold this space, in order to be able to connect back up into source and to come up into my higher multidimensional self, because it means that each person who works with people, each person who does earth healing, does so from a point of reference of knowing.
Yes, yes. That's what I always believe, that everybody has a gift to give to each other, to humanity. And they cross over, but they also are different. And each one of us has that piece. We're all a piece of source. So we all have a gift that we're able to heal humanity. And if we all work together, this place would be beautiful. No more 3D. It would just be an amazing.
It would be beautiful, but also I personally think that this 3D program is absolutely been created for us to understand the duality and the polarity.
Absolutely.
So, and one of the things that I always try and get over is the fact that this life is so inconsequential.
Yes.
It's so unimportant. People get so bent out of shape in this lifetime about having to have the bigger car, the bigger house, the bigger holidays. If we can understand that this is so just almost a grain of sand in the desert of life, it's so inconsequential. This life is about expansion. It's about love and compassion. It's about understanding. And when we can understand that we will be given all that we need, that's what we've chosen.
Absolutely. And we're here to learn lessons that we've designed before we were born to experience, to help us expand into who we are and what we've decided to learn. And yeah, you're right, this lifetime is just, it's very hard to comprehend that, isn't it? We think, oh, we only live for 80 years, but that's actually not a long time here. So you don't really need to spend it constantly trying to consume. It would be great if we just did, we all, not judging, but it would be nice to just sort of look at it from a point of view of awakening and seeing it from a more compassionate place than a place of like punishment. I must get this, I must get that, I must get the other. And
well, that's the ego. One of the biggest things that we're all trying to work on is the ego. And that's massive. And also, when we remember that people have incarnated on earth not to awaken because they need to hold the lower frequencies. So you will get people who you just think will never, ever get it because they're programmed into that 3D matrix to hold that energy there. Otherwise, we weren't going to be learning. There is no polarity.
I understand that. Thank you for that clarification.
But the ego is one of the biggest things. I mean, to conquer your ego, I think it just accelerates your awakening. And it's such a difficult thing to do because we are having the human experience. And as much as we can try not to go into the ego, perhaps, we master one aspect of it, and yet you drop into it during 3D and you think, oh my goodness, I thought that's showing me that I need to come back into compassion.
Absolutely.
No one said this life was easy, Donna. It really, really isn't.
It really is not easy because one minute you can be generally love and light and compassionate, and then the next you can just simply be really self-destructive to your own self and to others. It's not like you can walk it as the Buddha. You do have your days or moments where you actually feel really empowered, and you can feel completely just broken, and your self-esteem could be just completely destroyed. And sometimes you think you've really made it, and then someone can say something to you and it can just completely change it, and you think, oh my goodness, now what have I got to learn? So you've got to go look again at something, and you think, I really thought I'd conquered it. I really thought I was doing really well. I thought I was brilliant. And then suddenly they just say something, and they're like you said, it could be someone on a lower frequency that says something, and you think, but I thought I'd worked on myself, and it really can just tip the scales back. So yeah.
But if we can be absolutely honest with ourselves, if we can go, I thought I'd learnt that, but actually I haven't, then that's part also of that journey. We are not, I always say to clients, we're not ascended masters. In this lifetime, we're not, archangels. We are here to make mistakes. We are here to learn. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's not so painful, but that's soul evolution. That's how we become, wider and more expansive. And also remember, we're coming down not only to have our lesson, we're also, most of us are coming down to heal the collective energy as well. And then we're also coming down to heal all of the trauma from past lifetimes. And when we understand that we hold that within our system of lifetimes of persecution, of slavery, of also remember, we also have lifetimes where we have been the persecutors. I've had to clear lifetimes where I have been responsible for the collapsing of galaxies, where I've held so much power. And then the ego doesn't want to release that power.
Of course.
And then you have this whole fight between release it, the light, no, I want the dark. And so We are also, you know, we have been murderers, we have been murderers, we have been slaves, we have been slave traders.
Yes.
You know, we've been rapists as we have been raped,
Yes.
because that is how Source created the opportunity for us to understand the duality of light and dark.
Yes.
And a lot of us hold that energy of the dark things that have been happening to us, and also that which we have done to others. And we're coming in to clear that, because as we clear that, we clear for the collective. It isn't a linear process. We clear, when I clear for me, I clear for you.
Yes.
When you clear for me, you clear for yourself, you clear for me. We do it because we are all connected, because we all come from one source.
Yes. So what would you say to people who would struggle with the saying that we've been murderers, we've been murdered, and also we've been raped and we've raped? Some people would find that really hard to accept.
Okay, so we need to go back to understand duality and polarity. So let's go back to original source. Original source is the lightest, whitest light of all. We cannot get any more pure.
Yes.
But source in its intelligence needed to understand itself more. It needed, you know, if you're pure light, how can you understand anything that is other than what you are? So source intelligence created galaxies where we can experience polarity, the duality. Therefore, we will always have the purest of white source, but it created the purest of dark source too, white, light and dark, which is the yin and the yang. So we have gone through soul evolution, understanding as we've split from source into 12 different source entities. We have done that in order to understand the darker sides of ourselves, which is going to be, you know, control, it's going to be slavery, it's going to be disempowerment, all the things that have happened to us. As we say, oh, I've had lifetimes where I've been burnt at the stake, I've been drowned, I've been this, I've been that. Well, you're always going to be the perpetrator and the victim, because you've chosen to experience duality. We would also have had lifetimes where we've manipulated dark energy. People think of Atlantis as, you know, just pure white love and light. Atlantis wasn't like that at all. Atlantis was manipulation of genetic energy. It was manipulation of power. Therefore, it imploded on itself, because although we have free will, it's difficult to see where free will takes us. So Atlantis, when we get Atlantis and Lemuria, Atlantis actually collapsed Lemuria, which is the light, and became the dark, therefore had to be, you know, taken away. So to experience that, we have to experience what it's like to be in control of someone, and what it's like to be the person who's having been controlled. And of course, we will play that out in lots of different roles. We will, you know, we've been responsible for taking the lives of others, as others have been responsible for taking our lives. We have to get away from this biblical vision that everything that happens is due to what is written in the Bible, written in the Quran, written in all of those religious indoctrinations. They are simply a story that's been created of submission and control. And you only have to look at a lot of these religions where, you know, you're not allowed to do, you can't be gay, you're not allowed to be seen. You know, look at the religions where they are all about holding us down. You've got to say your Hail Marys. You can't be good unless you're giving to the church all the time. Well, this is about indoctrination. So you've got that coming through the church. If we were to come into pure light, we don't need to be told how to manage ourselves. We will just come from a position of love and forgiveness, compassion. So this has all been created so that we understand how it feels to be dark and to be light, because then we can come together and then we can become totality. So a lot of my clients are coming through healing aspects of the collective. So I worked with someone a little while ago who was here actually healing the slavery pain.
Right.
because not only is that energy held within the collective, it's held in earth.
Yeah.
When I'm channeling Oracle, who is the master holder of all galactic knowledge, he said to me that we're clearing that energy which is held and contained within Gaia itself.
Yeah.
So we're clearing the whole matrix field of all of the wars, not just, you know, I've done some work healing around the Second World War pain, but we're healing all of those wars. We're healing all of the times where young children have been abused. We're healing all of those times of disempowerment where, you know, people have been persecuted, because it's all held within a massive energy ball. Right. So we've got, you know, we've come down to such a complex thing because we're trying to evolve spiritually. We're trying to clear spiritually. We're trying to help the earth spiritually. We're trying to be healers. We're trying to be wise women, shaman, all of those things. We're trying to move across discrimination and through separation. No one said it was easy.
No, they're right there. It isn't at all easy. Not at all.
But when we understand that it's transient, when we understand that this life is so inconsequential, that we will all come back into a reality where we can observe what's been taking place, then we evolve and go back onto doing other things within other galaxies. Some of my clients come, you know, to me, and when we're channeling and we're finding out about their galactic history, that they are actually, part of their soul is actually off as sort of in a peacemaker role within the galaxies, trying to assist others in their evolution. So there are aspects within our multidimensionality which are already doing other things. So we're fragmented already.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're never going to feel whole.
That's true. That's so true. Yes. Yeah, that's so true, because it's like with the soup, with all the pieces inside the soup. Yes. Wow. I had a question, but it's kind of gone out my head at the moment. I had it there. I was going to say to you, have you ever come across somebody that's actually always been awake and remembers their like soul's plan before they came down to them? Have you ever come across somebody who's remembered everything? Because as we know, as soon as we come through onto earth, we have a veil of forgetfulness, a veil placed over us, so we forget, so that we can learn this without realizing why, and then like the awakening comes and then we remember. Have you ever met anybody that's actually been awake the whole time, remembers their soul's plan, remembers everything, and can kind of like, have you ever met anybody like that without being under the hypnosis or anything, just been awake?
So a lot of my clients have a feeling of knowing. But I think when I'm channeling Oracle, it gives them absolute clarity. So most of my clients would go, I knew it, but I needed to hear it in words. So it depends in terms of some clients will understand parts of their past lifetimes. So when I come in and I say this and this and this, and they go, yeah, I've connected to that.
Right, brilliant.
But not always understanding the whole plan, because I don't think we can understand the whole plan. And the reason why is because we are trapped within this very small brain where we only use about 20% capacity. So the only way we can understand who we are energetically within our blueprint is when we are working astrally. So you will have it's a bit like having memory returned to you. I don't believe we will ever know the full amount of who we are until we leave the physical body and we go back into the astral.
I agree with that.
For me, if I talk about in my journey, so it wasn't until I came into the quantum world that I understood all the other planets that I've had access to. So remember, we give ourselves access to part of what our remembrance is. So for me, I've integrated my Lyran, my Pleiadian, my Sirian, my Orion, my Hydra. I've integrated about 10 different aspects of myself. But when I go back out of the physical body and go back energetically, there will be millions of aspects of me. And I don't think that we can have the capacity in this lifetime. We will remember that which we have chosen to remember for
Yes.
whatever reason it is. And I had no idea of my origin, my source origin, until I started allowing this to happen for me. So once I'd had my complete breakdown and synchronicities happened, I came into the quantum world, I then started having star beings in my bedroom. And then I'd say to my husband, I said, oh, I've had 3 star beings in here. And he'd like, look at me, because he didn't even understand, you know, I'd never talked about this before. And then I'd be taken off in spacecraft, and then I'd have lots of upgrades, and then I'd feel my whole body shifting and changing. And as we upgrade, we then get more remembrance.
Yes.
And then we get more understanding of our original source. So I think I do have clients coming back to the question, I do have clients who have remembrance of parts of their journey. I have clients who have no remembrance at all, and then I awaken them in our sessions, our healing sessions together. But I think it would always be capped because of the restrictions of our holographic body.
Right, that makes sense.
That's just my feeling to, as I say to everyone, that's the information I'm given. I was part channeling then. That's the information I'm given. Feel into it and see if it resonates with you.
I understand. You know, when you say you went off planet into different aircrafts, I've read in books that people have found that a very stressful experience, and that they've found it very frightening, and they think it's something they didn't really want particularly to happen. How do you feel about that when you go? Do you enjoy it going back home to see?
I think it's slightly okay. So Kieskadora Nakoshi, I'm just checking in so I can explain it for you. Kieskadora Nakoshi Minaskadaini Kieskadora. So they're saying that there are 2 aspects of that. So when we are taken off and we're working within the lighter aspects of energy,
yes,
then for me it's just the most beautiful experience, because I'm taken into domes of light. I've had, you know, healing where I've had lasers placed into me, and so for me that's a beautiful experience. However, we do have to understand that within our realities we are also being bombarded by non-benevolent star beings.
yes.
And there are occasions where people are taken off. So not only do I do the energy work as well, I also do clearing of the body. So people contain lots of chips and implants. They contain different things that are, you know, connected to antennae. They have a contract in to be able to report back what's happening on Earth energetically.
Yes.
So I think there is also a possibility that people have been taken by non-light beings. You know, if you're looking into like the Anunnakis, the Draconians, the reptilians,
Yes.
that is still in play. And sometimes when I'm working with a client, like I work with a client, so I work all over the world, which is amazing because it gives me so many different opportunities. And clients are based all over the world for specific reasons as well. It's not that we just land here because we just land here. We land here because, you know, we're either earth clearing, we're grid clearing, there's another reason why we need to be here. And when I worked, I couldn't do any energy work in terms of releasing past life information and healing, because I had to clear her down of all of the implants she had on her,
Yes.
all of that technology.
Yes.
And then when I see the technology, I'm able to trace it back so I can deconstruct it and decode it, and then I can cut and release all of that. So I do think that yes, people have been taken and are continually taken up into a lower frequency spacecraft, where they are more looked at as analytically.
Yes.
Because also when I'm doing my healing with my clients, I mean, why would you ever want to do anything other than what I do? Because some of my clients have been used for breeding purposes off planet.
Yes.
Therefore, I have to come in and clear that out of their system.
Yes.
And some of my clients, you know, have been really traumatized by that, and it shows in this lifetime. So I think there will always be, coming back to the question and coming back to polarity and duality of understanding it, there will always be like nice spacecraft to go up in, which I'm very blessed to have been in, but there will also be others who are holding contracts with energy forms that don't have, which are more about control, more about infiltrating.
Thank you for clearing that up, because I do know there's people out there that was thinking, if I go off in a spaceship, that I have a very stressful experience, and then you're saying it's a light, and I was thinking people would think, is there something wrong with me? But now you've explained that there's two types of experiences. They can kind of see a bit more clarification on that. Yeah.
And I do work with people who have that darker connection,
Yeah.
and I do work in terms of, and it's really interesting when I'm healing those people, my Andromedan commander comes in,
Yeah.
and we clear all of that so it doesn't happen again. So we take them out of that dark matrix so that they're not, it takes negotiation. It's really interesting, but we release them from that contract of being observational, or of being able to be used for scientific global reasons.
That's brilliant, because it's good for people to know that, because there's a lot of people out there who have those experiences and don't know where to turn when they're having those negative experiences. And also they feel too scared to tell anybody about those negative experiences. So it's
Do you know what, Donna, in my cabin,
yeah.
I can honestly say there is nothing that I haven't heard. And because I understand it, because of the level I work at, people feel free to say, you know, I've never said this before, but the chances are I'll tell them that before they've even said it, because I see it as I look at the physical body. I can see the overlays, I can see the technology, I can see the coding that's been placed within the spinal column, I can see whatever's been put in there. And then all I do is explain it. And then as I remove it, so interesting, my clients will feel as I'm removing it from their energy field.
And yeah, that's brilliant that people can know that you're there, because there is a lot of people out there who don't know that they can have those removed. I was going to say to you, as somebody who'd come to you who's newly awakened, and somebody who's like me, who's also struggling with the fact of stepping into their gifts without feeling that people will think they're crazy, what would be your advice to, say, someone like me who's still struggling with it, and somebody who's just stepping in and waking up now?
Well, two things. I think with the awakening, it's about really listening to what you're feeling and what your feelings are.
Yes.
You know, people, I speak my light language all the time. When I'm out in the shops, I'll speak my light language, because for me, I've fully stepped into my power. I don't care if people think I'm crazy, because I've got a perspective of understanding that that's okay. So first of all, know what you're going through is not unusual. It's not frightening, but it's about, make sure you find someone, or you find your tribe who can support you in that. There are loads of things on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel as well, which I'll give you the details later on. There are loads of books to understand. So accept what you're going through. And often on our awakening journey, we have to hit the bottom. So people with depression, the chances are you're on your awakening journey. I was on antidepressants for 8 years. You know, we're dumbing that down when actually it's trying to come out.
Yes.
So first of all, find your tribe, find who you're drawn to. You will automatically know who resonates with you and who you want to see.
Absolutely.
And just find out, read as much as you can, open yourself up, trust and believe. With people who are on the awakening journey, it's the same. It's like digging in deep. Find out what your triggers are. Find out what you're learning. I know in this lifetime, I've come to learn compassion. That's been a tough one for me. To try and find out what are the core things that you've come here to learn. Step into your truth. You will be different. Oh my goodness, you will be different. But why do you want to be the same? Why do you want to be 3D? Step into your multidimensional self. Bring your light out. Show yourself for all the gifts that you have. And just trust and believe, because you've chosen to awaken in this timeline that you're on. And then find your tribe. Find who resonates with you. Don't do it alone. You don't have to be alone. Some people have the journey on their own, but we're all on an awakening journey. And the formula is love, it's forgiveness, and then it's compassion.
Fantastic. And just before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you about you said about compassion, that you've come to learn compassion. You said that you found that hard. Was that finding hard compassion for yourself or for everyone? Because I feel that you've got so much love to give everyone. It's hard to believe that compassion would be a difficult thing for you. But what did you mean by a difficult journey of compassion?
I think compassion for me as an individual was the hardest thing I had to learn. And because that comes into judgment.
Yes.
And then it comes into decoding all of those subliminal messages and really loud messages that you've had about whenever you speak, you never think about what you say, you know, you're not a kind person, all of those things that we grow up with. So finding compassion for myself is a continual journey for me. Absolutely. Sometimes I struggle with it still, about, am I a nice enough person? Is that true? Am I being true when I'm saying things? And compassion for others, because part of the ego is always about judgment.
Yes.
And when we've been fully in the ego, when we've been immersed in the ego, we will judge everything. And also we become, you know, I can go out with certain people and I can hear that judgment and it hits me in the solar plex. And I'm like, okay, I need to work out whether this is the right place to be. When we don't judge, and you know what, when we can look at everyone around us with love and compassion for the journey they're on. And I was out with someone and they were commenting on about how this particular person looked. And it hurt me so much because I could see beyond that. So when we go beyond that judgment, and I have to be honest, I used to be really judgmental. When I was working, oh, I would judge you in an instant. But now I've learned, and if I do slip into judgment, I'll pull myself up because it's not a nice place to be. So when we don't judge, when we have compassion for the journey, when we look at everybody but see their colours and not see them as a human holographic body, when we see their colours, when we see their essence, when we see their struggle and their journey, that's compassion.
That was absolutely beautiful. And do you find that not having compassion for yourself, like saying judging, was all to do with fear?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted to conform. I wanted to fit in.
Yes. Would that take you back to where you started at the beginning when you said, I sort of charm people into doing things for me, and then it came out as the fear, as a side effect of you repressing your fear, it came out as a judgment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now in my life, I have people who I want in there.
Yes.
I don't have people that I have to please.
Good.
And it's part of our growth. It's just part, and compassion of self is so, and it comes down to even things like, you know, when you're tired, sit down. I never said I was busy all the time. And when clients come in to say to me, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out because I've done this, and this, and I'll go, yeah, I was there. Because if I kept myself busy, I didn't have to think. And if I didn't think, I didn't have to connect to my pain.
Absolutely spot on. I was exactly the same. Always busy, never connecting with the pain. That's the hardest part, is to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do you want? How can I be kind to you? Yeah.
That's why we manifest illness. Every illness is an emotional entrapment within the body. Absolutely. Which is why I created such a bad stutter, yes, which you won't even hear now. Yeah. 2 years ago, you know, I literally could not hold a sentence because I couldn't speak my truth. Yeah. So of course my energy was stuck here. Yes,
I think I'm going through that.
Honestly, and people who have thyroid problems, people who have tonsillitis, all of those things, all because we can't speak our truth.
Absolutely.
And that comes in, actually, your clients, you might like to have a look at the work of Dolores Cannon on YouTube. Through Dolores Cannon's work, I'm a QHHT practitioner level 2, and through her work, I could understand when the client comes into me and says, this is my medical condition, I know what's wrong with them.
Yes, because Dolores is great on the disease of the body.
Absolutely.
Dolores Cannon is fantastic.
She really helped me connect more into the quantum field, into the quantum knowing. And then if you just have that opening, they will come down and show you more.
Really, she's amazing, amazing woman. Well, Tina, have you got anything else you'd like to say before we close up?
No, other than thank you. I mean, I could talk about my work and everything until the cows come home, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just, you know, and I know we've said this before when I've worked with you, I'm so proud of you to see you on your journey. Fully embrace how far you've come, and to see you and to watch you being able to hold that space for others is an absolute joy.
Thank you very much, Tina, and I appreciate all that you've done today and given me your time, and I hope we do another video together. Equally,
I would love to do another one.
that was
Love
just so
to.
interesting and so amazing, and I'm so honoured that you were prepared to do that video with me today, and I thank you for
Oh, you are so, so welcome.
Thank you, and I should put links for Tina at the bottom of the video, so please feel free to connect to her as you see how wonderful she is. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay.
Much love.
Much love to you too. How was that?